Hello and welcome back, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can make compost if you don't have a compost bin or room for a compost bin. And another thing that you can use this video for is if you've got only one or two compost bins like I have, if you want to keep making more and more compost, then you might want to keep clearing it even when the stuff's not fully composted. So what I'm going to show you is what I'm doing now at the moment, which is where in my compost bin, once stuff has started to go quite brown and it's already quite broken down, I let the worms and everything else do the last of the composting in a compost bag. So if you save your plastic compost bags where you buy compost in, you can use these then you can put all the compost in that's already composted, or if you don't have space for a compost bin at all, you can do all of the composting in these bags. Just get the mix right of browns and greens. And if you want to know more about things like this, then check out my series on my YouTube channel, which is in a playlist called Composting Broken Down. But what I'm going to be doing is getting fairly composted stuff and matter, and I'm going to put it in an old compost bag and leave it at the side or at the back of the garden for another few months so that I can use it to mulch my beds in winter when everything's finished. And it'll also mean that I clear up and free up my compost bin so that I can start making even more great quality homegrown compost. So before this video gets started, I'd just like to make sure that you've gone down below, hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell icon to make sure you're notified next time I upload a new video. So the reason that I chose to make this video all about making compost in a small space, when you may not even have enough room to have a compost bin just like mine here, but the reason I chose this is because I know a lot of people don't have enough space, just like me, and with bins like this, as soon as the matter turns brown and like looking composted but it's not fully ready to use in your beds, it can get a bit annoying when it's just there and it's taking a while to compost and finish composting, when really you just want to get your next lot of greens and browns in so you can start making all of your own compost and new stuff. So what you'll need for this video today is a garden fork. The only reason you'll need a gardening fork is if you're doing it with ready composted stuff just like I am, and basically so if most of it's broken down and you're just doing this to finish off the composting breakdown time, then you'll need a fork and also a shovel of some sort. So the fork is to break up all of the stuff in the bottom of the compost bin, and then this is just to shovel it into your bucket or wheelbarrow or into the bags. The reason you need this is so that you can dig it out, as I just said, but if you're just doing it with fresh green stuff, you can just wear gloves and put like grass clippings, old shredded newspaper, things like that straight into the bags, leave them at the corner of your garden and leave them to compost. And if you have any more questions about making compost from scratch in these bags, then leave them down in the comment section below, because today I'm going to be showing you how I'm putting my ready composted stuff in these bags to finish off the composting process so that I can free up this compost bin. And then soon I'm thinking of making another video all about my wormery, because I made one a few months back, a very brief video about everything you need to know about wormery, and that went really well. It's actually got over 1,000 views now, so thank you all for watching that. And if you would like to see one of them, then make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel so that you know when I upload that video. And I can't remember if I mentioned in the last clip, you'll need an old compost bag that's empty. It doesn't really need to be clean, because if it's dirty then it means there will be composting bacteria in there, which means it'll happen quicker. So now let's get on with filling these bags with some ready composted stuff to finish the composting process. So I'm going to start by using the shovel to clear a little trough or pit by the hatch that you take the compost out of the bin, so that I can drag it all out and then scoop it into the bags, or I might put it in the wheelbarrow and then into the bags, because it might make it a bit less messy. Or no, I think I'm going to be lazy and I'm just going to put it straight in the bags. If I make a mess, it'll just fall on the ground here and break down anyway. So let's get on with this. So I'm using this shovel here. I'm just going to, and I put this soil up to the side there so that I can then reuse that to go against the hatch to keep it in place. And I gently scrape away here so I don't snap to the plastic too much, although this is an old bin so it's already a bit damaged. And to be honest, from over the years of emptying compost, this soil that's down by the hatch is probably really fertile, except I still want soil to be able to put up against it, so I'm not going to use that. I'm sure some of it will get into the bag, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, so now that's all cleared, I'm going to open the hatch, and what on this compost bin here, I just scratch the mud away from it, I lift it up, take the lower clips out, and then I take the top clip out. So you lift it up when it's on there, take these two lower clips out, and then you push it down and take this top clip out, and then you've got that hatch. So you put that somewhere safe so that you don't lose it, because they're easy to lose. Just like with this other compost bin where I've had to use roofing slates instead of a hatch like this. As you can see, or as you will see, it's quite composted in here. There's a few bits of cabbage leaf still a bit green, but look, it's quite composted. It's still sludgy because I'm well known for putting too much grass clippings in at once. But then with that, then I'll put that in the bag, and then what that'll do is finish the composting process. And what I might do is keep turning it every now and then, just to stop it getting too waterlogged or wet, and then it'll come out as a nice rich airy compost. So I'm now going to be using my fork to try and loosen all of the matter that's in there, and then I'll bring that out into the little hatch or the little pit that I dug, and then I'll put that into the wheelbarrow ready for me to use my hands with gloves to put it straight into the bags. And I'm sorry if there's a lot of wind, but I've put you on quite an exposed position there so that you can have a good view of me doing this. So here's my fork. We've had this fork, like this end bit, for a while, and when I was digging before I went no dig, I snapped the old handle, so I've used this new one. We put that on, put the rivets back through, and it works perfectly. So now let's get making compost. So I'm just going to get the wheelbarrow a bit closer so I don't spill too much. So there's the first load. So you can see it's fairly composted, but you can still see all of the fibres of the grass, which we don't really want. We want it to be more like a loamy soil like this, where it doesn't clog together, it's not too fibrous, and where the roots and seeds and stuff will all grow happily without any trouble. So it doesn't need to be too wet, it just needs to be perfect compost in the end basically, and that's not perfect at the moment, so I'll put that into a bag and finish it off, probably in the shade, but I could put it in the sun to get it hotter so it finishes quicker. I actually only turned this compost probably 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, and that's why it's a lot more broken down than last time I touched or I saw it and handled it. So the last time I saw it, a lot of it was still, you could still see green in it, but that's a lot more broken down now, so that's a good sign. And when I put it in with the bag, hopefully there'll be some worms and microbacteria and things like that that will continue the process with breaking down. And then after that I can put green and brown materials back into here so I can continue the composting process, so I have compost ready for next spring to mulch. And this is quite smelly compost actually, because as I said earlier, I put too much greens in my compost so often because I don't really get much brown material from my garden or anything like that. So that's why it's a bit smelly, but you can't smell it, so lucky you. So I think I'm just going to move my wormery from down here because I can't really get the fork into there to get the compost out very easily. So I'm just going to move this. This is an old windscreen cover for a car actually, that stops the car getting too hot for when there's children in the car, and we don't use it anymore obviously because I'm grown up, so I used that to keep the worms cool, my little children. So I've actually moved my wormery out of the way now. Oh whoops, forgot to put my gloves on. Yeah, I've moved the wormery out of the way, and now I can actually get a good easy reach into the compost bin with the fork so I don't have to go hitting everything, and I don't want to really damage anything because that means that I'll have to put some in the bin or reuse it, which is bad for the environment. Not reusing, putting it in the bin I mean. So I'm going to use my fork now, and there is some green stuff that I've been putting in over the last week on top, so hopefully I won't get too much of that in the bag, but I think it's going to be inevitable. But we won't get as much, we won't get all of the green stuff in, but some green material will be good because it'll keep the compost process moving on swiftly. Something you could do if you were going through your compost now and putting it into bags like I am, then if you still find quite woody and hard bits, you could either run it through a shredder or cut it up with some robust like hedge shears, which will cut it up and make a bigger surface area for the stuff that composts, so like the bacteria, the fungi and stuff like that. Because if you just take a look at this is probably, yeah, I think that's some hay or some of the hay meadow that I cut, that I put in there as a brown material, and that could have done with being cut up smaller, but I'm just going to leave that because I haven't really got the time to cut it up. So I'll put that in the wheelbarrow, and then because this will probably get boring for you if you watch any more of me doing this, I'll cut now to when I'm filling the bags once I've already emptied the brown stuff out of this. So there we are, I've done my last fork load now, and that's it. I'm back down to the fresh stuff in the compost bin now. I left probably a few handfuls of this stuff left in there, because what that does, and I recommend you do this as well, especially if you're turning over a compost bin onto fresh stuff and taking the old stuff out, what this does is it will keep sort of more of the bacteria and all of the actual stuff that breaks the compost and breaks the organic matter down. It'll keep all of that in the compost bin so that there'll be more, so that the next batch of compost you make will happen quicker or just as quick as the last one. So that's why I did that with that load there, because you don't really lose out on much because you get it back the next time, but it just helps the next batch of compost, so it's just thinking into the future. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you me putting them back into the compost bags, or not back, but into the compost bags, so that I can put the compost bag somewhere just to finish composting off. So I've got this one, which is an old multi-purpose compost, and I'm just going to use my hands and do it by hand, because there's not too much compost here. This will also get air through the compost, which will also speed up composting. And if you really want to speed it up, then you can wee on it, because human urine is one of the best ways of speeding up a composting process. And I don't think I'm going to wee on this one, because that's what a bathroom is for. But this should be ready around Christmas time if I get my predictions right. But then again, everything in gardening is all quite, well, it's not all going to plan, is it? So hopefully it will be ready at Christmas so I can use this to mulch over my beds, ready for next year. But if it isn't, then I can just go with the flow or whatever like that. So I'm going to lift it up here now so that I don't really have as far to move stuff. And this stuff is already quite good actually, and if I didn't have too much growing in my garden, I would probably put this straight onto the garden, to be honest, because it means that it would just keep feeding the soil ready for next year. But unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, very fortunately, and I've got a lot of plants still growing in my vegetable patch, which means I need to try and keep this compost going until I've got less stuff in the garden, so I've got space to mulch the beds, which will hopefully be around my birthday, December. So that's as full as I want it now, and then what I'll do, I won't show you me filling up another bag, I'll just put this to one side now, but what I'm going to show you is how I'm going to close it up. So to stop it going all sludgy and compact, we don't want rain in there. So I'm going to tuck the lid down like that. That's why I didn't fill it too much. And then I'm going to put a rock on top of it like that. And this will keep the water out and it'll keep the air in. So now that I've done that in the bag behind me, I'm going to find somewhere to put that, but I won't show you that. And then what I'll do is I'll put a rock on top just to keep the plastic down so that the rain all runs off, so I don't get lots of water in there, so it doesn't become like a lake with a bit of mud in it. And then I'll fill this other bag here off camera. So I really hope this video did help you. So if you haven't got a compost bin, show you another way that you can make compost, because it is possible. You can still make your very own rich compost to feed your beds or to feed your containers, and it'll also save you lots and lots of money, because compost can be quite expensive, especially when you go down the organic peat-free route, just like I have recently. So make sure you go down below, hit the subscribe button, like the video and leave a comment to let me know what you thought of this tip. Thank you for watching, I'll see you next time.